The end of all things is near. Therefore, be alert and sober-minded so that you can pray. Been dwelling on this verse for a couple of times, and I want to stay with it just this once more. Be alert and sober-minded. We've got to talk a little bit about what that consists of. Alert, well, that's fairly easy to get. Be alert. Pay attention. Does this ever happen to you? Because it happens to me pretty routinely. You're at a traffic signal, the light is red, you're stopped, and you're just a few ticks late anyway. And the person in front of you, the light turns green and they're working on their phone or something. And okay, at Mississippi 1, Mississippi 2, Mississippi 3, but around 4 or 5, I start thinking, wake up, pay attention up there. Now, I have been that person too, but I always have a really good excuse, right? Well, when people don't pay attention, some very bad things can happen. This is so true in aspects of your life that relate to your spiritual development, your walk with God, and the temptation of the enemy. If you're not paying attention, he will pick you off. Paul writes, be very careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. Well, in the King James Version, it says, walk ye circumspectly. That means pay attention. Keep your eyes on the horizon. I'm grateful I never had to fight in a war. I was in Bible college during the Vietnam crisis, and then too old to, the draft went away and all of those things. I've got a million excuses, I suppose. I have such a regard for the men and women who enlisted and of my age who were drafted and went and did what they could to protect freedom. I'm so grateful. If you're one of those men or women, thank you. Words don't convey gratitude. I am told, though, that this idea of walk ye circumspectly means pay attention to your surroundings. If you don't do that, in a war, they ship you home in a body bag in a coffin. You must be alert. Be alert. There are two things that I think we must be alert to. Number one, we must be alert to the fact that we have an enemy who intends to take us out. We're going to see it, I don't know how many sessions later than now, but in the next chapter where Peter writes, your enemy, the devil, he is your enemy. He's not just he's not just a thing out there, and he's way not just this make-believe kind of mythical embodiment of evil and wrong. Oh, he is the embodiment, but he is not mythical. When I was in youth ministry, I used to tell kids, hey, here's the thing. Satan is every bit as real as Jesus. Don't you ever forget it. He's as real as Jesus, but he's not as powerful as Jesus. And we then can be grateful for that fact, because it gets quoted all the time. John in his epistles wrote, he who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. And what he's talking about, this he who is in the world, is our enemy, Satan. Jesus, God's Spirit within us, and God the Father, as he guides and protects us, are greater than our enemy. But don't think for a minute you can forget that we have an enemy. He wants to wait, if he can, until you've forgotten, so that you're easy pickings, you're low-hanging fruit. I think there are a lot of Christians who live their lives as though they didn't have an enemy. I'm not talking about political parties. I'm not talking about movements, or I am talking about a reality that we have got to be fully alert to. Our enemy is on the prowl, and he wants to take you out. He doesn't just want to make your life hard. He doesn't want to just keep the goodies from coming your way. He wants to devour and destroy you. That is his entire mission. His hatred for God has driven him and the 1/3 of the angels from heaven that he took with him. Their driving motivation out of hatred for God is to take people to hell. Is that strong enough language to get your attention? Be alert. Second thing we need to be alert to: God is never not at work. Yeah, things suck right now. I mean, I'm using deeply theological language, but things are not good in the world. This pandemic thing is, man, it's a game ender. Things aren't good, but you know what? God is at work. Don't forget you have an enemy. Don't forget that your God is at work. Be alert to the fact that he is working in your life. He is working in the world. Pay attention so that when he moves, you'll notice. When God does something in your life, I don't know how you would ever verify this statistically, but I think well over half of the things that God does in our lives, we kind of shrug off as, well, pretty nice coincidence. Or, gosh, things did work out. Yeah, they did work out, but there's a reason, because God has been at work. He is on the move. I love the Chronicles of Narnia. And there are several phrases within the Chronicles that I most enjoy. In The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I love when the children get to the beaver's home in the beaver's dam, and the beaver leans across the table and he says in hushed, serious tone, "Aslan is on the move." See, we are in a season of desolation. Things do look bad. But Aslan is on the move, my friend. Be alert to the fact that he is on the move. Okay, be alert. Second thing, be sober-minded. In Romans chapter 12, Paul writes that each of us should have a sober estimate of ourselves. I love that wording. A sane estimate of ourselves in other versions, but a sober estimate of ourselves. See, sober means that you are in control of your faculties. I suppose it's possible to be only slightly sober, but if you're only slightly sober, you are probably mainly drunk, inebriated, out of control of your faculties. Peter here writes, be sober-minded. How do you become sober-minded? I think it comes down to, are you able to be objective about what is happening around you and in you? Can you look at what eventually becomes data objectively, so that you don't have a predetermined conclusion? You're not carrying in some kind of emotional baggage into this, but you're seeing it for what it is. Sober-minded people are able to see things as they are. I think sober-minded people are among the most realistic of people. I'm not saying they're pessimists, they're not optimists. I think there are pessimists who are sober-minded and there are optimists who are sober-minded. The point is, can you evaluate what is happening objectively and reasonably? And by that I don't mean, well, it's reasonably okay. What I mean is, are you using your reasoning capabilities? So much of the world runs on pure, unfiltered emotion. Madison Avenue knew this for however long they have been an entity. They have known that you don't sell stuff to people on the basis of common sense. You sell stuff to people on the basis of an emotional appeal, which is why, I'm sure there is some huge dramatic difference between products like toothpaste. Every time I go to buy toothpaste, there's like, how do you pick out of that huge batch of toothpaste tubes on the shelf? Honestly, I don't know that it matters unless you have some particular kind of condition that requires a particular toothpaste. They're toothpaste, right? Their design is to help you get your teeth clean. But even the whitening formulas, can we be real? You can brush your teeth 8 times a day with whitening formula toothpaste, and I'm not sure it's going to change the color more than, not enough for you to notice or be noticed because of. Well, all right, silly illustration, but here's the point. We are emotional people who can have our emotions manipulated, engaged and manipulated. We are reasoning people who can call reason into our interpretation of events. If you take the emotion out or you take the reason out, you have a bad situation. And really, it's kind of like which oar on a rowboat is most important. Well, if you only have one oar on the rowboat and it's affixed and you row the boat, you're going to go in circles. You need both the emotion and the reason. A lot of people will call that feelings and logic. Sober-minded people have not forsaken their feelings. They have not assassinated their emotions. But they realize that their emotions need to be guided by their reason, by logic, although I'm not even sure that's the best term, but reason. I recently read again an old saying that I think applies here. It said, common sense, not so common anymore. True. I believe God created us capable of common sense. But the world, the culture we live in, tends to want to push that out of the way because it really is an obstacle. If you are engaging your common sense, that becomes a hindrance to those who want to engage and then manipulate your emotions to sell you something, to inspire you to do certain things, to push you in certain directions. I'm not saying emotion is bad. Please do not hear that. You must not assassinate your emotions. It leaves you without a vital part of who you are. But please be sober-minded, that your reason is intact and that part of you is engaged along with your emotions to interpret the events and happenings in your life. In times like these pandemic times, you better have both of those things. You better have your feelings acknowledged, but you better have common sense. You better have reason that is able and willing to look at data and draw a conclusion from an objective point of view. Well, we're going to use the time up. Guess what? We get to move on next time. I hope I get to connect with you this way again then on Soap Care with Stevie Boy.